Welcome to the Worship Keys podcast. My name is Carson Bruce. We talk all things music theory, gear, industry, and ministry for your worship keys playing. I'd like to thank Aerospace Audio for being a sponsor of this episode. They create unique, incredible, high-quality atmospheric drone pads to be used for your worship services, productions, songwriting sessions, whatever it may be. And they have an analog, physical drone pedal that they call Atmosphere. There's actually a version 3 out. They also have a MIDI in capability, so you can work in tandem with Ableton Live or any other DAW that you have to be able to control everything through that ecosystem. Or if not the physical analog pedal, they also have an iOS app that you can run the pad straight from your iPhone or iPad. It's called AeroPads. Definitely check them out, aerospaceaudio.com, and let's get into today's episode. All right, guys, welcome back to the Worship Keys podcast, here for a more impromptu episode. But look at these two guys. If you're on YouTube, you can already tell, and you already know, you've seen the thumbnails, you've seen the titles, Leonard and Marlon. Mm-hmm. I cannot believe it. Now, of course, when I hear your names, oftentimes I hear your whole name there, like Leonard Ray Jarman Jr. Is that right?
Junior.
Okay. Like the whole phrase. And I've heard nothing but great things about you guys. Seen y'all from afar for a long time. And Marlon, I've seen you with Eddie James back in the day. Mm-hmm. As like a 9, 10, 11-year-old kid, I went to the ramp in Hamilton, Alabama, and I saw you up there on stage. And we could talk about Damon Thompson, Karen Wheaton Ministries, Eddie James. And but guys, welcome them to the Worship Keys podcast. I'm going to actually jump behind the camera and let them speak more so. You guys don't want to hear me speak anyway, more than you have to. And I only got 2 mics anyway, so I'm going to pass it on over to Leonard here. But you guys are in for a great impromptu episode, and let's do it.
The studio we're at right now, we're in Nashville, Gnome Studios, and the very beautiful place. I mean, we're having fun here, you know, rocking with my brother here. We're working on Doe Jones and her new project that she's setting up. So we're just doing some pre-production, getting everything locked in, putting muscle to music, you know, and then we'll take a break and then come in and do the live recording the following week. Here in Nashville, so we're having some fun. Lock it in, man. Having some fun. So I'm technically from Kansas City, Missouri. That's where I'm born and raised. I've been, you know, a Culture kid my whole life, you know, and now I'm living in Atlanta, Georgia. Been there for the past, say, about 10 years or so. And you know, Georgia's a great place, so we're having fun out there, you know, doing ministry and yeah.
Yeah. So I'm Leonard. And I'm with the homie Marlon. We're here working on Doe Jones live recording, like you said, doing pre-pro, just getting everything right, dialing in the songs, kind of figuring out the flow. And then we're gonna come back and do a night of worship, capture the songs. It's really great stuff. This is a really great team.
Yeah.
I love being in this space. I love being in this space with Marlon. Specifically, we've gotten to do a lot of things together in the more recent years, and it's made my heart glad. Yeah. I live in Vegas, but I'm from LA. I was born in LA, but I moved to Lubbock, Texas. So my childhood is all North Texas, like 14 years there, then another 12 years in the Inland Empire. That's where my wife and I met, like Moreno Valley, Riverside area. Then lived in Orange County, Irvine for some time, and now we've been in Las Vegas for literally 9 years. And we have a discipleship ministry that we launched prior to moving, but we'll be celebrating 10 years of that. And we have several different initiatives that we do, citywide initiatives with different churches. We run a house of prayer near the Vegas Strip. We pastor a house church community, and we're actually launching a discipleship school this year in the fall, a school for worship and creative evangelism. And so it's really amazing things that are taking place that the Lord is doing in Vegas.
Wow.
That's incredible.
So my start with Eddie James, I was fresh out of high school, actually. I graduated and I did a semester of college, and you know, it didn't hit. And I was just like, okay, God, why am I not, you know, feeling this? And the Lord, you know, I remember the Lord telling me, I have something else for you. So I was like, okay. So I took a break from school, and I got a call from my cousin, who was actually the drummer for Eddie James. Called me and was like, hey, we need you on the road. What are you doing? So I was like, I'm not doing anything right now. So he was like, hey, we need you on the road. I said, let me pray about it. And I never left Kansas City. That was home. I didn't even see myself leaving the town. So then Eddie's brother, Justin, called me. Shout out to Justin James, my boy. And he said, hey, it's either you in or you out, brother. Listen, we need you. He said, we don't want you to become, I remember this vividly, we don't want you to become another random bass player that plays for Bishop Larry Trotter. I don't know. That's a whole nother random story. But I was like, okay, let me pray about it. Let me see what happens. And, the Lord was like, yeah, he gave me the kind of the release, the grace to leave. So told my family, my family was kind of like, you should think about this. And, I was like, no, I did get the peace from God. And, he told me, got the approval. So when I got there, it was completely different from what I imagined it would be. My first event with Eddie was at a church in Cleveland, Tennessee, North Cleveland Church of God. And it was an event where it was kind of like Southern gospel. And, I wasn't raised that, I was just straight doggone church, Kojic boy, you know what I mean? So it was a whole big experience. And then listening to Eddie's music at that time, it was technically on the other side for me in that era. So I was like, my eyes just started opening up to like other sides of, ministry and evangelism and musical gospel, and it was kind of like, it helped me shape me to where I am now. So I'm forever grateful for Eddie James and the EJM ministry. Even found my wife and with Eddie James. So shout out to Eddie for helping me find my wife. Met her, while we were on the road, and she jumped on the road with us as well. And, we connected and became really good friends, and then it became something else, and we started to date, and, the Lord told me, that's my wife, and I feel like the Lord leads you in different places to, find that kingdom connection that you're supposed to have, when you obey. So I felt like I did the right thing and obeyed, and the Lord rewarded it. So
I love it.
Yeah.
Explore the uncharted territories. There's more to access. There's more to access, not just from a musical perspective, but from a depth of intimacy with the Lord. And for me, I look at the responsibility of stewardship with what we have in our hand as critical. When it comes to spaces like this, we have a responsibility to prepare. Like, God shows up in prepared places. We recognize that in scripture, where the woman built out the room in her attic for the prophet to stay in her house. Even the story of creation is a story of God establishing order. And even when the temples were created, when Moses' temple, when the tabernacle of David, when Solomon's temple was created, the place was dedicated. It was built, it was dedicated, it was prepared, and then the Lord inhabited the place. And so we have a responsibility to prepare what we have in our hands, which is our skill set, and submit that preparation to the Lord. And He comes in and breathes on it and inhabits it. We have a responsibility to show up in spaces like this, fully prepared to be able to walk in freedom. So when the Lord says, I'm shaping the environment this way, we can underscore His song appropriately. What's unacceptable is to say, oh, I didn't practice that because I felt like it wasn't worth it, or I don't like that genre, so I didn't really want to take the time to do that, or I was too scared to do it. The Lord will always remove excuses for disobedience. He, in His kindness, will set up things. He'll give us a time differential. He'll connect us with people. He'll give us opportunities that are meant to be threshing floors, that are meant to make us like a Swiss Army knife. And both of us can attest to that. We've been in so many different musical spaces, and each of those environments have served to be an amalgamation of our sound, like individually and collectively. And so we bring all these things to the table. Or really, we bring all these things to the altar. That's a better way to say it. We bring all of those things to the altar and lay it at the Lord's feet. And He says, use this here, don't use that here, use that one over there. And our responsibility is to move in a way that we have the freedom to say yes to the Lord. And we can trust Him. We can trust Him. We can trust His master compositional framework. He is a master composer. He is a master producer. He is a master creator. He is the ultimate creator. So creativity flows from Him.
Yes.
So I feel like as musicians, exploring the more first begins with exploring the deeper places of intimacy with Jesus and correlating them with our musical development. They're not mutually exclusive. His voice singing over us helps us play better because we tap into what He's singing over us, and we're able to play it in a way to where other people hear that same song. And they don't even know that they need to hear it at that point in time. They may rely on that moment 10 years later. There are seeds that are planted. So we have a responsibility to be obedient in the immediacy of the moment, because we don't know what key of breakthrough that's going to have to be for someone later on in their life.
That's so true. Have an ear, to hear what he's saying, and that's where we were talking about that earlier, just how, our great Corey Russell said it, glory follows order.
Yep.
And if you don't allow the order to come into play, the dove can't land, the cloud can't come, and is able to have a connection and lock in with everybody who's on the same page, one accord, you know what I mean? And everyone's in the same mindset, the same knowledge of who we're doing it for. I'm telling you, man, like even devotion at home, that's key. For me, there was moments I had with God that that were the biggest at home than it was at church. I don't know, if that makes sense. Like there were moments where, I'm just playing to God and I'm asking, I'm a kid, just Lord, put the chord in my hand, I'm begging for it. And I remember this one moment, I first encountered as a kid, was playing and I was in C sharp and I hit a 4/6. I don't know what was up with that moment.
4/6.
That 4/6 literally changed the way I think about life. You know what I mean? Literally, it's like God's weight literally just came as to a 17-year-old. You know what I mean? Just whoo. And I was like, I felt the Father. You know what I mean? In that moment on that chord, and I found like a heavy shoe and put it on the sustain pedal. And I got on my knees and I just wept and I cried. And I was just like, I don't want this moment to end. You know what I mean? Like, it was like one of those moments like, okay, Lord, okay, you're in music. Right. You're in this music thing. So therefore, I want to remain in this moment. I want to remain in this posture, of caring for the talent that you've given me,
Yeah.
So yeah.
Exactly. And which also means that we want to orient our lives so where we don't lose sensitivity to the Holy Spirit. Because the Lord can visit a space that has disorder, but he won't stay there.
Yeah.
God can use whoever he wants. God's glory can encounter environments, even where people are doing wicked things, but that doesn't mean that he's pleased with it. Mm-hmm. So the reality is we want to pursue holiness without which no one will see the Lord. Not legalism, not ticking a bunch of boxes. But I love the presence of God so much that anything that could remotely break his heart, anything that could remotely interfere with my ability and perception to hear him and sense his nearness is not worth having. I don't care if everybody else is doing it. I don't care if it means I don't travel as much as everybody else. Yeah. I don't care if it means I don't get certain auditions. I don't care if it means I don't make much money, because his presence is worth it. Like, what is his presence worth? Is his presence worth spending time in the practice room and correlating it with prayer? If it's not, then do we really value him the way we say we do? It's that black and white. And it translates to our musical development. We'll never hit a pinnacle. Nope. We'll never hit a pinnacle, and we'll never see the end of it until we are face to face with Jesus.
So I'll say this. So talking about my upbringing on how I haven't started to play keys. So I'll say a quick story. So I was 10 years old, right? And we were in the church service. I was a kid at Boone Tabernacle, Church of God in Christ, Kansas City. And, back in the day, had those praise breaks and, you're going through a fire tunnel. You know what I mean? All the church mothers on the side hitting your head. Hallelujah, say Jesus, say Jesus. I'm just a kid going across, getting prayed for. And my pastor's on the other side. And, we're having praise break. He stops the music and he's like, hey, put your hands out, son. And so I put my hands out. This 10-year-old, he's praying for it. And he said something that now it makes sense. He looked at me, he said, hey, son, these hands are going to be worth something one day. So I was just like, okay, me being a 10-year-old, I said, yes, Lord, I'll receive it. Fast forward 6 years later, I had a dream, and the dream was my hands were out the same way. But this time my hands was in under a waterfall. It's like a big waterfall, right? But the waterfall was not water. It was actually oil. So usually, you would have those dreams that were kind of like, 3 seconds, and you wake up, it's the next day. Like this dream literally felt like 6 hours, 7 hours of me just doing this. And it was just a waterfall of oil just coming down the whole time. And it was so weird to see it in real time. So now I woke up, you have those heartbeat moments like, Lord, what was that? And now I know it's the Holy Spirit. He impressed me to turn on the radio. It was a Hezekiah Walker song, and to grab my brother's Casio. And I was a drummer during this season, by the way. And told me to turn on the radio and grab my brother's Casio. And it was, a Hezekiah Walker song. And for the first time, I was actually able to like detect, the notes that were being played or whatever being sung in the song. So it was like that moment started my keyboard musical journey. And I remember he said, listen, I gave you this gift. If you keep doing this gift for me, you'll do this for the rest of your life. And, and I try to make that commitment to him, like, Lord, everything I touch musically will be for you and nothing else. So I've been trying to, uphold that side of the bargain, with what I'm doing here, play people like Leonard, but yeah, that's my heart, and like as a child, if I was talking to my younger self, I would just say, stay on the right path, hear his voice, you know what I mean? Listen to his voice, listen to his whisper, and be able to obey the first time. Be obedient so then you can see what he's trying to do. He won't tell you everything in the beginning, and you have to be okay with what he gives you because he's trying to direct you in the right path for your purpose and for the kingdom and where he set you. It's all planned out. He's already got it taken care of. You just have to just walk in it, so.
My story is kind of interesting because I grew up Church of Christ, which does not have instruments in worship. I've been playing keys since I was 5, but I didn't start playing in church till I was 17. So my dad was a pastor for about 25 years, playing at 2 churches in Lubbock, Texas, where I grew up. And then when my family moved to California, relocated in 04, then that was when I started playing in church. And also Church of Christ is not a charismatic denomination. So I wasn't exposed to like Kojic or other environments where there was more expressive musicianship until like high school. I started seeing guys that played multiple instruments and like killing players like that, exposed to like stuff like Ty Tribbett. I listened to a lot of Israel growing up, so I wanted to sound like Aaron Lindsey from the time I was 12.
Didn't we all?
So I would study the old New Breed records and know all the parts, be able to like flesh all those out. And when I started programming for my dad's church, because we didn't have a band when we started. So I had he got me an ASR 10 from my uncle with a floppy disk, and that was what I learned how to program on. And then he got me a motif, and he wouldn't let me play it until I read the whole manual. So because of that, I know the Yamaha engine pretty thoroughly. And so I was real heavy into programming all through high school, even into college, different experiences. Started playing with older musicians, doing like top 40 stuff, playing aux keys when I was still in high school. And then when I met my wife in college, like I did jazz band in high school and all that. And then I was playing for a male chorale in college, playing in a jazz band. I couldn't read music, so I had to learn how to read music in college. And my wife, when we became friends, she started exposing me to different genres of music that I had never heard before. And it really opened my ears to hear music in a different way. And from that blossomed a genuine friendship, and we started dating. And flash forward, like now we're married. We've been married 12 years and have a 6-year-old daughter. And so she's a huge part of my musical growth. But then within that space, I was playing in so many different musical environments, and the Lord just taking me on journeys with cultivating an authentic intimacy with him in that process as well, where it not just became, oh, I can play, but music being the vehicle by which I encounter him. And correlating the musical language with how he sings over people. In Zephaniah 3:17, it says the Lord rejoices over you with singing. So I always would get this picture of the Lord sitting in heaven singing in spaces of worship or in any kind of musical space. And over the years, I've just gotten better at playing what I hear. And he's allowed me to be in different environments, and people that I look up to, like Israel and Aaron Lindsey, I've been able to do a lot of things alongside them, and they've been able to speak directly into my life, and I've gotten to have some amazing experiences and grow as a person, as a husband, as a father, as a musician, by just like being able to absorb how the Lord has navigated their journeys. And I gleaned so much from those spaces, and just with different peers of mine within the worship community. And my wife, especially alongside my wife, it's been such a beautiful journey. And even this space as well. Like every space that I've been in has been a beautiful learning experience. Each room is a threshing floor. And the Lord's kind of taken me on that journey of seeing rooms as threshing floors rather than stepping stones. When I see the room as a threshing floor, then I'm able to, one, see what the Lord wants to wring out of me, and I'm able to see what he wants me to gain for whatever the next assignment is, but enjoying the assignment that I'm currently in, rather than viewing the assignment as some ancillary thing that's meant to catapult me to something greater. So that's been something that the Lord has really instilled in me on not just my musical journey, but spiritual disciplines as well. And for me, they, like I said earlier, they're not mutually exclusive. And so, yeah, what I would tell my younger self is, and I'll preface this by this, because I didn't grow up playing in church. I didn't grow up playing B3. I didn't grow up playing like a lot of the shouts. I learned that stuff late. And I never felt like I was like a true gospel keys player. Like I never really felt like I had the West Coast sound, like the legends like Jason White and Mike Burrell. I never felt like I had like the East Coast vibe all the way down, because it's very jazz heavy and very aggressive, and I love it. And like how different regions of the US have these sounds. I never felt like I had that, like the quartet thing. I never felt like I was like authentically that, because I wasn't born into that. And so I would feel like I wasn't as valuable in spaces when I'm next to people who have that insane facility. And like guys that could play circles around me. And I'm in spaces and I would often feel like the weak link. Like, oh, well, I'm gonna play aux keys, so it's the secondary keys role. It's gonna get turned down in the mix anyway. So like, but, like I would always carry this kind of like self-degradation, this like this low self-worth thing. So what I would tell my younger self is this: your experiences will not take you down the same trajectory as people you will encounter, but they are deliberate. The experiences that I allow you to have will be a critical component in why I inhabit your sound.
Wow.
Trust my process. You're not late. You're not missing out. You are exactly who and what I designed you to be.
Musically, I feel like we need to break away from the spirit of preference, if that makes sense. You know, God is all things, you know what I mean? He's I am, you know what I mean? He can do it all. And I feel like if we need to, and you may even hash in on this too, if we need to sound and look like heaven, then we should be able to present everything that heaven is bringing as well, in the same settings. So it's basically musical preferences, lay it to the side, basically, and hear what the Lord is asking for. You know, we don't want to just keep singing the same, you know, songs that are the top 50 Christian hits. You know, the songs that certain people want to hear. My wife says it best, you know, diversity is not just one color. Diversity is different versions of ministries. There can be, you know, a black arm, a white arm, yellow arm, you know what I mean? And they're all doing the exact same thing, you know what I mean? Just because it's the different color doesn't mean that it serves a great purpose, you know? It has to be different parts of the body that works that create the motion all together. So I feel like that's a huge hot topic as of late. And I feel like all means of worship is welcomed, even when it comes to musicianship, styles, feels, approaches. You know what I mean? If a drummer has a little feel and whatnot, and it makes you feel uncomfortable, then I feel like then we need to go back to the prayer room and figure out why is that, making you frustrated musically. I feel like just all kinds of styles of music is worship, is honored and accepted to the King,
I feel like a area of division in the body of Christ, one of many, I think there are many different iterations of it, but it really stems down to idolatry when you distill it to its elemental forms. Idolatry in the body of Christ has caused the church, specifically in the West, to be more like the Roman Empire than the Acts 2 church, where they're more concerned about political status and prestige and influence rather than carrying the fragrance of Christ. And the fragrance of Christ, which is the knowledge of him, is meant to permeate the world around us. It will be offensive to some, it will be attractive to others, but there's been a gross adulteration of the fragrance of Christ, I'll say, in specifically the American church.
Yeah.
And that's not saying that one church is more guilty of it than the other, because when one part of the body is hurting, the whole body is hurting.
Yeah.
We can't other ourselves from the church. Like when one part of the church is engrossed in scandal and abuse and various things, then the whole church suffers.
Yeah.
Like we can't separate ourselves, and we use the church, unfortunately, as these social cliques and social clubs and these elite hierarchies that honestly are more about propping ourselves up. Like in 2 Chronicles 5, when the glory of God inhabited the temple that Solomon built, the priest couldn't even stand up because of the cloud. And the word that he uses for glory is the Hebrew word kabod, and it translates to weight. Like the weight of God's glory was so tangible because there was a united atmosphere of consecration. They consecrated themselves without regard to their divisions. And there was a united acknowledgement of the Lord, that he's good and his faithful love endures forever. So when that happened, the glory came and the priest couldn't even stand up to minister. We often try to take the weight of God's glory and use it as a pedestal to look down on other people. And that's been happening for too long in the church in the West. God will not be mocked. God will glorify himself. So we have to take his glory seriously. We have to take his presence seriously. And I think we approach the Lord too flippantly. He's the Lord. Yes, he's our Father. Yes, he's our friend. Yes, he's our counselor. Yes, he's the Prince of Peace. But we need to recognize the seat that he sits in. We need to recognize who we are in the presence of, and it should inform our thoughts, behaviors, and actions. And the mercy of God should inform our thoughts, behaviors, and actions. We present our bodies as living sacrifices. We don't try to facilitate worship, but live a double lifestyle off the platform. The overflow of our private intimacy with the Lord is broken open for people to see and people to taste that the Lord is good. They're able to see hard evidence of his goodness. They're able to see hard evidence of his kindness in us that leads people to repentance. We often have lost that in the West. And it's very easy to lose sight of that when we don't fix our eyes on Jesus, when we fix our eyes on a platform, when we fix our eyes on being more visible, when we fix our eyes on Spotify streams or CCLI charts or various things outside of Jesus being magnified.
How I approach my gear, I am personally a minimalist. I was once the kid who wanted, the granular things, but didn't know how to use it. So now I know knowing me and my personality, I need something that's more focused, concrete, shout out to the ADDers. Something that I can lean in and be able to do things all in one setting. That's how personally my brain works. So I personally use like a Nord, I see red, and use it as, and we were laughing about this, as a really good MIDI controller. Sorry guys. I love the Nord. Nord is great. But the reason why I love the Nord is because it has great faders and knobs for keyboarders. I personally use the Nord for all CCs and faders. What I'm using Nord on is Ableton, and all of my CCs are in Ableton, and I connect everything in the Nord. Now, if my computer goes cuckoo and shuts down, then I can just plug the Nord right in and I can get a piano, and call it a day. I was talking with a good friend of mine, Luke Hendrickson. He's at Bethel, and he kind of broke this down for me, kind of helped me out with it. So everything I have is straight on the board. I have different faders for different moments. My main, of course, is the keys. On the left side, though, I have a setting to where it's only bass. And it's like a synth bass. If there's moments, the bass player wants, quits or whatever, I can jump in and kind of carry that moment. So there's a stack layer, there's a piano layer. I have pads as well. So I have a mellow and bright pads. I kind of took this idea from Nick Staley. He has a really cool template that's really cool. And he has bright pads and mellow pads to where it's like low moments for mellow, bright pads for like high energy. I have faders for that. And then I also have a top key section to where I can play all of my ear candy type effects and sounds that can help get the moment going, kind of take it to the next level. So it's all on one keyboard bed, main keys, low synth bass, high ear candy things. And it's all in faders and, kind of helps me, lock in a little bit faster. So yeah, that's my settings.
Love it.
Now let's get to the fun stuff.
I'm the opposite. I am, what is it, a maximalist?
Yeah, maximalist. Is that the way you say it?
Yeah. Quite literally. Marlon has one keyboard. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, I have 8 boards. 8. Yeah, that's kind of insane. But every last one of them has a purpose, though.
It makes sense.
I like to have in the same way that Marlon has intentionally crafted within one keyboard, I will intentionally assign keyboards to control, let's call them universes or multiverses, if you will. Everything's a controller. So for me, I'm not brand specific. There are brands that I like, but it's more, I like them because I like the way the keys feel, and I like the tactile interface, or I like the amount of physical real estate that is open on the keyboard for me to set a Novation launch control or like a launch pad or some sort of other like master MIDI control that I'm gonna use as a brain. So I'll typically travel with like a Novation Launch Key 37 and a Launchpad XL, and I'll have those be kind of my brains, my master control. I use a Keytar that I trigger my vocoder with. I have a synth palette that I keep assigned to that, and my wife is actually the one that got it for me. When we were on staff at a church leading worship, when we moved to Las Vegas, she got it so that I would not hide behind the piano while I'm leading worship. So it forced me out of my comfort zone. And now I love it. So I use it. I have a sticker from our prayer room on it. So I love that thing. I take it with me everywhere. One of my best friends and I worked on a pedalboard project for about a year. So you can't see it, but there's a huge pedalboard that houses a Mac Studio, my vocoder pedal chain, my Apollo X4, and a USB hub that's powered that has an 8 USB cable loom connected to it. So as many USB cables as I can get to my computer is as many control surfaces as I can have. So there's really no limit with the process unless it's the processing power of the machine, the interface outputs, and just what I'm doing inside of the Ableton session, which is a whole other conversation in and of itself. But yeah.
That is incredible.
I love using controllers because I can just come in and serve. I have a writer, but I don't have to be writer specific. I can just say, what do you have? Does USB work? Cool. Easy. Because more often than not, like I'll go to places and the back line is not necessarily like SIR or something like that. And so I don't want to have to be limited and my capacity to be able to serve the space that I'm coming into be hindered because I need a specific piece of gear.
Yes.
So software.
That's good.
And so I've been using software for a long time.
Yeah.
But, all right, I'm gonna say this. Nothing beats hardware.
Nothing.
And this is coming from somebody that has used Omnisphere exclusively since 2012.
Yeah.
I have used plugins on everything that I have touched, every tour, every session, like every live recording. everything that you have heard me on for the past, man, how long? 13, 14 years now?
I was about to say 15.
Yeah, is plugins, specifically Omnisphere.
Yeah.
And the Spectrasonic stuff. I love their stuff. Absolutely nothing beats hardware. Mm-hmm. The best software is an emulation of someone else's intelligent use of hardware.
Yeah.
Like this Sub 37, you will not find anything that sounds like that. You won't find anything that sounds like a Moog. Or an actual Rhodes. The Keyscape Rhodes is killing, but there's an actual Rhodes right there. And if you run the thing right, there is nothing like it. Like a piano, there's an actual C7, there's an actual upright right behind us. You can have the best sample library, but there's something about the real thing.
Warmness.
Now, software is convenient. It gives you access. You can repeat things, like, because a lot of those old boards, you can save anything. It's like you got to build it right there. So if you treat software like hardware and put limitations on yourself with the software, then you can step into different levels of creativity. Because the thing about hardware is the limitations force you to be creative in a different way.
Yeah.
Software can almost feel like an endless rabbit hole. And you can end up in, what is it, like analysis paralysis.
Yep.
And so that you have to take the time to really grab the nuance of software. And then like the synthesis laws, like the filters and all of that stuff, the oscillators, they do the same thing in software that they do in the hardware. So if you can get a handle on how it functions in software, apply the same principles to hardware, and then you can use a Juno 60 or a Prophet 6 and use the internal sounds, and you'll be great.
Yeah, sure. I mean, okay, so you said the past projects that I've worked on. So, of course, I was with Eddie, in the Eddie era, I know we talked about, my first big kind of project with Eddie was when he came out with the God album. And I know a lot of the Rampites know about that project. It was cool because that was like my first big kind of like situation, musical, like, ordeal. He let me kind of like spearhead.
And was it on one track someone said like, "Hey Marlon" or something?
Oh, okay, wait. Okay, the project before that.
Okay.
It's what started the wave. Was it the track?
Yes.
The Hey Marlon, are you ready?
Yeah,
oh gosh.
Like a loop that started and then you did something.
Yes, and it was the You Are Jehovah song, right? Oh. We were bored, okay, in rehearsal. Shout out to my brother Richard Town. He was the drummer of Eddie James at that time.
Richard Town?
Richard Towns, yeah. I traveled with Richard. Yes.
He's cold.
He's cold-blooded. Richard's my guy,
Yeah.
And he's amazing musician. So we were in the studio working on You Are Jehovah, and we were cooked. We were tired. You studio time, you're in the cave. And we thought it'd be cool. Hey, what if we just say your name? Hey, Marlon, are you ready? Because that's what he said when I was just playing. And I said the exact thing. Yeah, I'm ready, And he said, hey, we should put that on the track. So we did it, and now it haunts me for the rest of my life. Because now I have children come to me, pulling my coat, and say, hey, Marlon, are you ready? And their parents are back there like giggling. I'm like, oh, why did we do this? So yeah, that's where everybody kind of knew who I was at that moment. Kind of embarrassing, but it is what it is. So doing that, and then went into, Eddie started to really lean on me on the musical side. So, hey, I really want you to, kind of jump in on this, along with my brother Matt Back. And we kind of co-produced that together. And Matt, he's an amazing musician. I mean, just a savant. And we were doing the God album. And that was kind of like my first kind of like big thing as a musician, to really he allowed me to really use my brain. It was cool the first time because the first project was with Calvin Rogers and Dale Freeman. It's
kind of a scary.
It's a scary situation as our first song, using those two guys. So shout out to Calvin Rogers, shout out to Dale Freeman. You guys saved my life. And that kind of really helped me do some really cool reps, on what, the Lord has given me in my production and different things like that, which led into other things, connecting with other, cool people, you got to jump in with Maverick City. We did a lot of project with Maverick City. They had me come in and play the Juneteenth project. We did the Kingdom project with Kirk Franklin. That was a fun one as well. Many other projects that we did on Christmas. Of course, we did the Christmas project with Maverick City. That was fun, connecting with those guys and, having, Harold having my back during that season. Did a few things. I was at Free Chapel for a while. We did a cool project then with those guys and, my brother Jonathan Etienne and, doing some great things with Bryce Kreitz and those crew. And then a good friend of mine, Kevin LeVar, did a cool project with him.
Kevin, bro. Kevin's a gem, man.
He's a gem. That's my brother. Kevin LeVar is amazing singer. Did some things with him. Had Teddy Campbell on the drums, and he's GOAT, GOAT. And then of course I finally got to link up with my brother here when we did Joel's project, and it was a dream come true. That week was divine. And he'll probably speak in more on that as well. Shout out to Lizzie Morgan, did a project with her not too long ago. And that project was beautiful. She's going into doing Alabaster Box and, all that fun stuff. Now we're here with Doe, and doing some great stuff. Excited for the future. When y'all hear this project, I'm gonna leave it right there. That's amazing. It's awesome. So have fun.
I have a really great friendship with MultiTracks. Been able to partner with them over the years. So I have some sound packs for Atmosphere that are available there. Some ambient pads that I have on there that I've crafted, and more of those are coming down the pipeline as well. Just really excited about how they service and resource the local church. So I'm really been able to dive into that. I've had the privilege of being on just a lot of different projects. Some of the more recent ones being like Joel Barnes' Good Shepherd, which was just a masterful experience. Just the way he personally walks with the Lord and how just the revelation of Jesus, it really oozes out of him creatively, like it pours through him. And just being around someone like that, a brother like that, who sees the Lord that way, like you can't help but just like exude creativity.
Yeah.
So it was such a joy to be part of that project. Lots of collaborations with Israel. I got to be a part of the Corritos record through Overdubs, the one and it won a Grammy.
Yeah.
So
congratulations, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I was a part of the Alive in Asia record that won a Grammy. So that was cool. I'm really happy. That's cool is an understatement. Let me say that's an iconic moment because of what those songs mean to an entire community of believers. Man. So that is a huge stake in the ground. So it's something worth celebrating. And so grateful to Israel, so grateful to Aaron Lindsay that opened so many doors for me. Longtime collaborator, both my wife and I, with Matt Redman over the years. I've done like 5 records with him. This last record that he did, I'm on 5 of the songs as a writer. And so I've been writing a lot in this season, both my wife and I. So that's been really incredible, just involved in different things. And for us, really the biggest thing is just our ministry in Vegas. Like I said earlier, we're getting ready to launch a discipleship school in the fall, a school of worship and creative evangelism. And so that's been like the biggest thing. So you can follow our ministry on Waterway Ministries on Instagram. So it's at WTRWAY Ministries. So I have my personal stuff and that's good. And there's some other creative things that I'm looking to roll out. But for me, the biggest things are just the investment that the Lord is making and pulling out of the city that my wife and I are assigned to in this season.
So also, working with, I'm very excited about this. Finally get to work with my wife for the first time and finally put out a record for her.
Yeah.
I'm very excited for what she has to bring. And my wife, she's a worshiper at heart all day. And she's coming out with a very cool album that's going to be more of a songwriter, but it's going to be a ministry as well, heavy ministry to people who's been hurt, people who's dealt with disappointment in life, and just speaking to their heart and saying, you're going to make it, you're going to be okay, because she's a witness herself of failures and things that happened in her life that hurt her, and she's able to be a voice. We have a new deal that we started, Marshall. You can follow that. It's called Marshall Creative, and we're going to do some really cool things with that company and creating some cool apps that's going to help the health of the ministry and the health of worship teams and churches and connecting with other different ministries like Waterway and different things that help bring the church back together in unity. So we're excited about that, and go do some cool things. Follow my wife. Her name is Crystal Joe with a C. You'll see Marshall Creative, Marstal Creative. That would be the name on the Instagram. So yeah, excited.
Thanks for watching the Worship Keys podcast. Carson says, stay tuned to what's next.